Hello students, this is the GED class. Welcome. We're going to start out our class today going over two words that sound similar but not exactly the same. Formally and formerly. Formerly. Those words are both adverbs. They tell us something about the verb. So let's look at what they mean. Formally means in a formal way. We are going to finish this year and many of you may come back next year and go on to the next level. But we will not have a formal graduation. So we can say this year students may finish school, but they may not formally graduate formally. And that is true for high school students and college students. I have two nieces. One is a senior in college, one is a senior in high school. And neither of them are going to formally graduate, but they will still be finished and able to go on to the next level. The other word is formerly, which means previously or in the past. Formerly, I taught at Richland College, but now I teach at For the Nations. Blank, she worked at Walmart, but now, whoops, I had a she and a he. But now she works at Ross. In the past, or previously, or formerly, she worked at Walmart. We use the past tense because we're talking about in the past. But now she works at Ross. So this one, formally, is in a formal way. Once my son flew to California for a job interview. They offered him the job, but he had to wait until he got a letter that formally offered him the job before he could accept it. So those are our words for today. Now let's go to a different section in the GED book. We're going to be continuing on with the 2018 GED prep book, and we're on page 116, Writing Effective Sentences, Lesson 1. This is a very good, very important lesson, and we are going to talk about it together. So first, let's look over on the left-hand column. Key ideas for this lesson: make sure each sentence has a subject and verb and expresses a complete thought. If a sentence doesn't express a complete thought, you may need to add a subject, verb, or other words. Use correct end punctuation. So you might ask me, where are you teaching from? Where are you teaching? I might say, is that a complete sentence? When I wrote it, I started with a capital and I ended it with a period. No, it doesn't have a subject or a verb. So I might say, I might change it to teaching at my house. What is the subject? Who is doing the teaching? I am. That sentence does not have a subject yet. I am teaching at my house. Here is the subject. I am teaching is the verb. So when we are looking at English and making it correct, we want to make sure that sentences have subjects and verbs. On this test, it says read each sentence in a GED passage to yourself and pause as it ends. That may help you hear whether the sentence is actually an incomplete thought or a sentence fragment. So let's look at the top of the page. A complete simple sentence has at least one subject and one verb. The subject is the person, place, or thing that the sentence is talking about. The subject performs an action or is described. The verb is the word that tells what action the subject is doing or links the subject to a modifier. So, action verb. You study at home now. Study is the action verb. And in our book, Elaine took notes on the meeting. Elaine is the subject. Took is the verb. A linking verb is, are, was, were, am. They were long. They is the subject and were is the verb. It connects they and long. If a sentence is missing either the subject or the verb, it is incomplete. An incomplete sentence is called a fragment. So look at the examples near the middle of the page. Typed up her notes. Is that complete? No, it's missing a sentence. Who typed up the notes? She typed up her notes, or Elaine typed up her notes. Now let's look at a sentence with no verb. The computer in the main office. A complete sentence might be, the computer in the main office crashed several times. That means it broke. It stopped running right. Or you might, so the computer is the subject and crashed is the verb. A complete sentence must also express a complete thought. The reader should not be left asking questions. An incomplete thought. When she lost her work. What happened when she lost her work? So, complete thought, Elaine called the person, Elaine was very frustrated when she lost her work. That is a complete thought. An incomplete thought, the person in charge of computer support. What about that person? Elaine called the person in charge of computer support. Incomplete thought, by replacing the hard drive. Complete thought, Elaine can fix the computer by replacing the hard drive. Finally, a complete sentence should have correct end punctuation. A statement should end with a period, and so should a command. A question should end with a question mark. An exclamation should end with an exclamation point. So it talked about periods, question marks, and exclamation marks. Here is an example of a statement. Elaine lost several files this way. A command, turn off the computer. A question, will the computer ever be fixed? Exclamation, what a mess we're in. If you find a fragment in your writing, rewrite it to make a complete sentence. If the sentence does not have a subject, add a subject. If the sentence does not have a verb, add a verb. If the thought is incomplete, add words or combine the incomplete thought with a complete sentence. So, practice number 1 on page 117 is writing sentences. And we can't really do that here, but you can practice it at home. For example, it says write C if the sentence is complete or F if the sentence is a fragment. Rewrite any fragments to make them complete. Talks all the time on the telephone. That is a fragment. Who talks? Dave talks all the time on the telephone. Drives his girlfriend crazy. Who drives his girlfriend crazy? You need a subject. Maybe it's Dave drives his girlfriend crazy. So you can do those if you want, and then you can take a picture of them and send them to me and I'll check them, or show them to your children if they're very good at English. Now let's look down at page 5, questions 5 through 7, part B, because this is an example of what you might see on the test. What is three-way calling? So here is a very short reading sample, and you get to parts where there are words missing, and you have some choices of what goes in the blank. So let's read together. Three-way calling is a unique service that enables you to conduct a conference blank, the privacy of your own home. Okay? So let's write that up here. It might have been good if I had written that up here ahead of time. And if I could pause this, I would. Whoops. But I can't pause it without starting the whole video over. So I'm just going to write it down. You go ahead and look at number 5 and see if A goes there, B, C, or D. And I will write it up here and we'll talk about it. Okay, that's a long sentence, or a long 2 sentences. We have to decide what goes there. So there are 3 choices. Three-way calling, 4 choices, is a unique service that enables you to conduct a conference call, they say a period, and from the privacy of your own home. So let's think about that. If you did that, if you put A, then the first sentence would end with call, and the second sentence would be, and from the privacy of your own home. If you do that, does the second sentence have a verb? No, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have a subject or a verb. So we can't do it there. What about, let's see. Let's look at the next one. Three-way calling is a unique service that enables you to conduct a conference call, period. It from the privacy of your own home. Okay, it might be the subject, but what's the verb? There's no verb there. See? Three-way calling is a unique service that enables you to conduct a conference call from the privacy of your own home. That sounds good to me. Let's look at the last one. Three-way calling is a unique service that enables you to conduct a conference calling from the privacy of your own home. No, it has to be C. A conference call from the privacy of your own home. So three-way calling is, this is the subject, and this is the verb. So if you're going to put a period here, you need a new subject and verb, and none of those choices had that. Let's look at the next one. It will be easy to write. Let's see, this was 5. And the answer was C. 6 is, for instance, and then there's a comma. Are there any subject or verbs there yet? No, so whatever we pick next, it has to have a subject and a verb. What does a sentence begin with? It begins with a capital letter. So after a comma, we're still in the same sentence. So when we look at these choices, we automatically know that anything that begins with a capital letter would be wrong, but none of it does. So for instance, if you're closing a deal, can bring in your lawyer into the conversation. For instance, if you're closing a deal, can be bringing your lawyer into the conversation. C, if you're closing a deal, you can bring your lawyer into the conversation. D, if you're closing a deal, you could bring your lawyer into the conversation. Okay, C and D are the only ones that have subject and verb. If you're closing a deal, you can bring. So you is the subject, can bring is a 2-word verb. The next one, if you're closing a deal, you could bring. Could bring is incorrect. We don't use that. I actually have someone in my family that sometimes says that. You could do something. I may have even said it upon occasion, but it is incorrect. This is C. And I'm not going to write it all out. And let's look at 7. They're useful and convenient blank. Be yours for only penny a month. Okay, is this going to be 2 sentences or is it going to be 1 sentence? This useful and convenient are adjectives. So we haven't had a subject yet. This useful and convenient service is be yours for only pennies a month. Do we ever put is and be next to each other? No. Is a be verb, but we don't say is be. So A is incorrect. This useful and convenient service, it can be yours for only pennies a month. Well, service and it would be 2 subjects that are repeating themselves. So that is not correct. This useful and convenient service can be yours for only pennies a month. That makes sense. Service, can. Service is the subject, can is the verb. But let's look at the last one to make sure. This useful and convenient service, period. That can be yours for only pennies a month, okay? If we look at that, this useful and convenient service, period, then there would be no verb in that sentence. So it has to be C. This makes it into 1 correct sentence. This useful and convenient service can be yours for only pennies a month. What is the subject in that sentence? Service. And what is the verb in that sentence? Can be. Can is in C and be is up above. Okay, we will stop there. If you have more questions, you can look at page 651 and see their suggestions and reasoning behind the answers. Later this week, we will look at chapter 2, compound and complex sentences. See you then. Thanks for coming to class.